I stood alone in the stadium bleachers, watching my 17-year-old son Gary lift the state championship trophy above his head. The crowd thundered around me. Teammates tackled each other in celebration, but my eyes kept scanning the family section. I had reserved 23 empty seats. My parents, 3 siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, every single person who had promised they would be here. Gary searched the stands for familiar faces, his victorious grin slowly fading as he found only me. I reached for my phone to call my sister Brenda, but a group text notification appeared first. 3 weeks before the championship, we had all gathered around my parents' dining room table for Sunday dinner. Mom had made her famous pot roast, and the conversation naturally turned to Gary's upcoming game. He had worked harder than any kid I knew, spending countless hours in the weight room studying game film and pushing through a shoulder injury that could have ended his season. "This is it for me, Dad," Gary had told me that morning. "Win or lose, this is my last high school game ever." At dinner, the excitement was infectious. My sister Brenda practically bounced in her chair. "We will absolutely be there, sweetie," she had promised Gary, reaching over to squeeze his hand. "Your whole family cheering you on from the best seats in the house." My brother Frank nodded enthusiastically. "Wouldn't miss it for the world, nephew. This is what family is for." Even my typically reserved sister Carmen smiled warmly. "I have already requested the day off work. Nothing could keep me away." My parents beamed with pride. Dad raised his coffee mug in a toast, to our champion grandson and to family always supporting each other. The following Monday, I had called the athletic department and reserved premium seats, the 23 most expensive tickets available. Section A, rows 1 through 3, right at the 50-yard line. I even paid the extra fee for reserved parking passes so nobody would have to walk far. The total came to $847, but seeing Gary's face when I told him the whole family would have perfect seats made every penny worth it. I arranged for my assistant manager to cover the bistro that Friday night, something I rarely did during our busiest period. The corner table had been in our family for 12 years, ever since Dad passed, and left it to me. Missing a weekend service meant losing significant revenue, but this was Gary's moment. The week of the championship, I could barely contain my excitement. I called each family member to confirm details, kickoff time, parking information, where we would meet afterward for celebration dinner. Every single conversation ended the same way. "We cannot wait, Justin. Gary deserves this." Friday morning arrived crisp and clear. Perfect football weather. I picked Gary up from school early so we could grab lunch before his pre-game routine. As we sat in our usual booth at Murphy's Diner, he kept checking his phone. "Everyone coming tonight, Dad?" "Every last one of them," I assured him, reaching across to steal one of his French fries. "Grandma, Grandpa, all your aunts and uncles. They are going to lose their minds when you bring home that trophy." Gary grinned, that infectious smile that reminded me so much of his mother. "I hope I don't let everyone down." "Impossible," I said. "You have already made us proud just getting this far." But as game time approached, my phone remained stubbornly quiet. No calls asking for directions. No texts about traffic delays. No excited family members checking in. I tried calling Brenda first, straight to voicemail. Then Frank voicemail again. Carmen. Mom, Dad, even my cousins. Nothing but automated messages telling me to leave my name and number. Standing in the concession line before kickoff, I watched other families gathering wearing matching jerseys, carrying homemade signs. The Hendersons had driven 4 hours from Columbus to watch their son play linebacker. The Martinez family had booked a hotel room for the whole weekend, making it a celebration vacation. Gary found me during warm-ups jogging over to the fence where families traditionally gave final words of encouragement. "Dad, where is everybody?" My stomach dropped. "They are probably stuck in traffic, son. You know how Aunt Brenda always runs late." "Game starts in 30 minutes. "They will be here," I promised, praying I was right. But they never came. As the national anthem played, I looked down that empty row of seats and felt something break inside my chest. Gary had played the game of his life, throwing for 287 yards and 3 touchdowns, leading his team from a 14-point deficit to victory. When the final whistle blew and confetti cannons exploded, he had become the small-town hero every father dreams of watching his son become. In the parking lot afterward, I watched the Hendersons surround their boy with hugs and tears of joy. The Martinez family was already planning their celebratory dinner, talking about framing his jersey and hanging it in their living room. Gary and I walked to our car alone, carrying his gear bag and the individual trophy he had earned as Offensive Player of the game. "You hungry?" I asked, starting the engine. "Sure, Dad, just us." "Just us, champ. How about those victory burgers at Friendly's?" Gary nodded, but I could see the disappointment he was trying so hard to hide. We sat in a corner booth eating cheeseburgers and onion rings while I desperately tried to fill the conversation with enough enthusiasm for 23 missing people. Saturday passed without a single phone call. No congratulations, no explanations, no apologies. I spent the day at the bistro throwing myself into prep work to avoid thinking about it. Sunday was equally silent. By Monday morning, my confusion had transformed into something much darker. Then scrolling through social media. Monday night I found them. Photo after photo from my cousin Derek's yacht party, all posted throughout the weekend with hashtags like Family First and Best Weekend Ever. There was Brenda raising a champagne glass on the deck of Derek's new boat. Frank and Carmen laughing at some joke, the sunset reflecting off the lake behind them. Even my parents looking more relaxed and happy than I had seen them in months. The final photo was a group shot taken Saturday evening, exactly when Gary and I were eating those quiet victory burgers. Derek stood in the center holding a bottle of expensive champagne while everyone gathered around him to celebrate his promotion to regional sales manager. The caption read, "When family comes together to celebrate success, magic happens. So grateful for these amazing people who always put family first." The yacht party had been planned after they knew about Gary's championship game. Every single one of them had chosen Derek's promotion celebration over my son's once-in-a-lifetime athletic achievement. I set my phone down and stared at the ceiling of my apartment located above the bistro. Gary was asleep in his bedroom, probably dreaming about college scouts and football scholarships. He had no idea that his own family had actively decided he was not worth their time. Tuesday brought more silence, Wednesday the same. I began to wonder if they were ever planning to acknowledge what had happened or if they simply hoped I would never find out about Derek's party. Then came Thursday morning and everything changed. The group text arrived at 7:43 in the morning while I was opening the bistro for breakfast service. I saw Brenda's name on my phone screen and felt a momentary surge of hope, maybe an explanation, perhaps even an apology. Instead, I found this: "Attention family. Time to properly celebrate Gary's big win. I am organizing an exclusive victory dinner that will make up for missing the game. Gary's victory. Dinner will be Saturday, November 18th at 7 p.m. sharp. 25 seats reserved at Justin's Bistro. Cost per person $2,300. This includes 7-course tasting menu with wine pairings, live jazz quartet, personalized menu cards, and professional photographer to capture this special family moment. Payment link below. Please remit immediately to secure your spot. Justin." You will close the restaurant to the public for the evening and donate your space for this family celebration. This is exactly what Dad would have wanted. Gary deserves the best. I read it 3 times before the words sank in. 25 people at $2,300 each, $57,500 total, for a single dinner. I scrolled down to see she had already received responses. Frank had sent a thumbs-up emoji. Carmen wrote, "Sounds perfect. Gary will love this." Even my mother had replied, "What a wonderful idea, Brenda. This is how we show Gary what he means to us." My hands shook as I calculated what she was actually demanding. 7-course tasting menu with wine pairings would cost me roughly $80 per person in food and beverage costs alone. The jazz quartet would run $1,500 for the evening. Professional photographer another $800. But the real killer was closing the bistro on Saturday night my busiest evening of the week, typically generating $4,000 to $5,000 in revenue. She was asking me to absorb approximately $7,000 in direct costs, plus lose my biggest revenue night of the week, all while my family paid themselves premium prices for the privilege of finally showing up for Gary. I climbed the stairs to our apartment where Gary was getting ready for school. He looked up from tying his shoes when he saw my expression. "Dad, everything okay?" I handed him my phone. "Your aunt wants to throw you a victory dinner." Gary read through the message, his eyebrows climbing higher with each line. When he finished, he set the phone down carefully and looked at me with those wise eyes that sometimes made him seem much older than 17. $2,300, Dad. That's more than some people's rent. It gets worse. She wants me to close the restaurant and pay for everything myself while they pay her. Gary shook his head slowly. I don't need a dinner that expensive. I just wanted them at the game. That afternoon, my phone buzzed constantly with family responses. Aunts and uncles gushing about what an amazing idea Brenda had created. Cousins asking about dress code and parking arrangements. Everyone treating this like Brenda was some kind of event planning genius instead of someone demanding I bankrupt myself for their entertainment. I called my brother Frank first, hoping for some voice of reason. "Frank, this dinner idea is financially impossible for me." "Come on, Justin, do not be cheap. This is about Gary." "Where were you Friday night when Gary actually needed support?" "Look, we had prior commitments. Brenda is giving us a chance to make it right by demanding I pay for everything while losing a full night's revenue." Frank's voice hardened. "You inherited Dad's restaurant. This is your chance to finally contribute to family celebrations like everyone else does." I hung up and immediately called Carmen. "Carmen, I cannot afford what Brenda is asking. Justin, this restaurant was Dad's dream. Now it is time to use it to honor Gary properly." "Honor him? Where were you Friday night?" "We are trying to fix that now. Gary deserves this celebration." Gary deserved his family at his championship game. Carmen sighed with exaggerated patience. "Life happens, Justin. People have conflicts. But Brenda is offering to make it special now. By demanding I pay thousands of dollars I don't have, you are being selfish. This is about Gary, not your bottom line." After she hung up, I sat in my office behind the bistro kitchen and stared at the stack of bills waiting to be paid. Equipment repair from last month, $2,100. Payroll for my 6 employees, $8,400 biweekly. Rent on the building, $3,500 monthly. Insurance, utilities, food costs, permit renewals. The bistro was successful, but not extravagantly profitable. Most months, after all expenses, I cleared enough to pay my own bills and set aside a small amount for Gary's college fund. A single night, like what Brenda was demanding, would wipe out 2 months of profit and force me to dip into Gary's education money. I read her message again, focusing on details I had missed in my initial shock. She had written Gary's victory dinner, but included a payment link directing money to her personal account. She was collecting $57,000 from family members while demanding I donate my restaurant food staff and revenue for free. Then I noticed something that made my blood pressure spike even higher. She had already sent formal invitations. I could see screenshots attached to the group text, elegant cardstock invitations with embossed lettering announcing an exclusive celebration at the Corner Table Bistro, and listing menu items I had never agreed to serve. The invitations featured my restaurant's logo and described it as award-winning and intimate fine dining. She was using my business's reputation to elevate her own social status, promising people an experience at my expense that would make her look like some kind of high society hostess. Worse still, she had invited people beyond our immediate family. The guest list included her country club friends, several local business leaders, and even the mayor's wife. She was essentially hosting a political networking event at my restaurant while demanding I pay for the privilege. My phone rang. Gary's name appeared on the screen. "Dad, kids at school are talking about this dinner. Someone's mom heard about it from Mrs. Patterson, and now people are asking me about this big fancy celebration my family is throwing." "Gary, I never agreed to any of this." "I know, Dad, but what do I tell people?" I realized that Brenda had not just put financial pressure on me, she had created social pressure by making this dinner public knowledge. If I said no, Gary would look like his father, could not afford to celebrate him properly. If I said yes, I would be financially devastated. That evening, I read through the message one final time, paying attention to every word. No apology for missing his game. No explanation for their absence. No acknowledgement that they had hurt Gary by choosing Derek's party instead. Just demands wrapped in the language of family obligation and Gary's supposed best interests. I typed my response carefully, deleted it, and typed again. Finally, I settled on the most honest answer I could give: nope. My single-word response hit the family group chat like a bomb. Within minutes, my phone exploded with notifications. Brenda, excuse me. Frank, are you serious right now, Justin? Carmen, this is about your son. Mom, honey, please reconsider. Gary needs this. The messages kept pouring in, each one more accusatory than the last. I turned my phone face down and tried to focus on lunch prep, but my hands were shaking as I diced vegetables for the daily soup special. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. Brenda's name flashed on the screen. What is wrong with you? She demanded before I could even say hello. I cannot afford what you are asking, Brenda. Cannot afford it. You own a restaurant. Owning a restaurant does not mean I have unlimited money. Do you understand what you are asking me to do? I am asking you to celebrate your son properly instead of being a cheap, selfish brother. Where were you Friday night when Gary actually needed his family? Brenda's voice turned ice cold. We had prior commitments, important ones. Derek's yacht party was more important than Gary's championship game. Derek's promotion affects his entire career trajectory. That is real success, not some high school game that will not matter in 5 years. The words hit me like a physical blow. High school game that will not matter. Oh, please, Justin, get some perspective. Derek just became the youngest regional sales manager in his company's history. That is worth celebrating. Gary threw some footballs around. Congratulations. Gary worked for 4 years to reach that championship game. He fought through injuries, spent every afternoon training while other kids were hanging out, made sacrifices you will never understand. And now I am offering to throw him a celebration that actually matches his achievement. A sophisticated, elegant dinner with important people in attendance, the kind of event that could open doors for his future. By demanding I pay for everything while you collect money from guests. Brenda scoffed. You are not paying for everything. You are providing the venue, which you should want to do for your own son. Everyone else is contributing financially. Everyone else is paying you $2,300 to eat at my restaurant while I absorb all costs and lose my biggest revenue night. This is what family does, Justin. We support each other. Support? You missed his game, ignored him for 3 days, and now you want me to go broke proving my love for my own son. The conversation devolved from there, with Brenda eventually hanging up when I refused to change my mind. But I could tell this was far from over. 2 hours later, I was reviewing inventory in my office when Dorothy, my head waitress, knocked on the door. Justin, you need to get out here now. I followed her into the dining room where approximately 20 customers were enjoying their lunch in peaceful conversation. Then I heard the shouting from the lobby. Brenda had arrived. She stood near the hostess station, gesticulating wildly while speaking loud enough for everyone in the restaurant to hear. She wore a cream-colored designer suit and carried herself like someone accustomed to getting her way through sheer force of personality. This is absolutely unacceptable, she announced to anyone within earshot. My nephew won the state championship, and his own father refuses to celebrate him properly. I approached slowly, keeping my voice calm and professional. Brenda, I need you to lower your voice. These people are trying to enjoy their lunch. She whirled around to face me, her expression twisted with anger. These people should know what kind of man you really are, Justin. Your son achieved something incredible, and you are too selfish to acknowledge it. I was there when it mattered, I said quietly. I was the only family member at his game. Because you did not tell us how important it was. Several customers had stopped eating to watch our exchange. I could feel their eyes on us, and my face burned with embarrassment. I told everyone exactly when and where the game was happening. I bought premium seats for the entire family. Well, we had other commitments, important ones. But I am trying to make it right now, and you are being completely unreasonable. Dorothy stepped closer, clearly ready to intervene if necessary. Miguel, my head chef, appeared in the kitchen doorway, dish towel in his hands, watching the situation unfold. Brenda, I need you to leave, I said firmly. We can discuss this later, but not here. I am not going anywhere until you agree to honor your son properly. Do you understand what I am offering you? A chance to show Gary that his family cares about him. A celebration with distinguished guests who could help his future. By demanding I pay for it while you profit from it. Brenda's voice grew even louder. Profit. I am organizing this entire event out of the goodness of my heart. I am bringing together 25 family members to show Gary love and support. You are collecting $57,000 while demanding I donate my restaurant for free. That money covers the meal. You are providing the space because you are his father, and this is what fathers do. An elderly couple at table 6 had abandoned their sandwiches entirely, watching our argument like it was dinner theater. A business meeting at the corner table had fallen completely silent. Brenda, you missed his championship game to attend a yacht party. You ignored him for 3 days afterward. Now you want me to prove my love for my son by going broke for your entertainment. Entertainment, she shrieked. This is about family. This is about showing Gary that we care about his achievements. You show someone you care by being there when it matters, not by throwing expensive parties 3 weeks later. Brenda took a step closer, lowering her voice to a menacing hiss. You have always thought you were better than the rest of us, haven't you, Justin? Ever since Dad left you that restaurant, you have acted like you are above family obligations. Family obligations. Yes, real family celebrates together. Real family supports each other's successes. But you hoard your resources and make excuses when it comes time to actually contribute. I felt anger rising in my chest, but kept my voice steady. I contribute by being there. I contribute by showing up. I contribute by putting my son first instead of treating him like a social media opportunity. That was when Brenda produced the folder. She pulled a manila envelope from her purse and slammed it down on the hostess station. Maybe this will change your mind. What is that? Legal documents. I consulted with an attorney this week about your obligations to this family and this restaurant. My blood went cold. What are you talking about? Dad's will left you this restaurant, but it was meant to benefit the entire family. You are supposed to be the steward of a family legacy, not the selfish owner of a personal asset. She opened the folder and pulled out several sheets of legal letterhead. These documents outline the process for challenging your inheritance if you continue to refuse reasonable family requests. You are threatening to sue me. I am explaining your options. Honor Gary properly with this celebration, or face a legal challenge that could cost you everything. The entire restaurant had fallen completely silent. Even the kitchen staff had emerged to watch this surreal confrontation. Dorothy stood beside me, her face pale with shock. This restaurant should belong to all of us equally, Brenda continued loud enough for everyone to hear. Dad meant it to serve the whole family, not just your personal interests. If you cannot understand that obligation, maybe you should not be the one running it. I stared at the documents, recognizing the letterhead of Jameson and Associates, a law firm that specialized in estate litigation. My hands trembled as I realized she was not bluffing. This is unbelievable, I whispered. What is unbelievable is a father who puts money before his son's happiness. What is unbelievable is a brother who turns his back on family when they need him most. She gathered the papers and returned them to the folder. You have 24 hours to reconsider Justin. Either agree to the celebration dinner or explain to Gary why his father chose greed over love. With that, she turned and walked out, leaving me standing in front of 25 customers who had just witnessed the most humiliating moment of my professional life. Dorothy immediately approached the nearest table, apologizing profusely and offering complimentary desserts. Miguel disappeared back into the kitchen, probably to calm the rest of the staff. I stood there for another moment, processing what had just happened before retreating to my office. For the first time since inheriting the restaurant, I wondered if Brenda might be right about one thing. Maybe I was not equipped to handle this kind of pressure. Maybe I was in over my head. But then I thought about Gary sitting in school at that very moment, probably hearing rumors about his family's dramatic dysfunction. I thought about the 23 empty seats at his championship game and the 3 days of silence that followed his greatest athletic achievement. No matter what legal threats Brenda made, I could not reward that behavior. I could not teach Gary that love was measured in dollars spent, or that family loyalty meant bankrupting yourself for other people's entertainment. I had said no, and I meant it. The aftermath of Brenda's restaurant confrontation played out like a slow-motion disaster. By evening, my phone buzzed constantly with family members weighing in on the drama. Some had heard Brenda's version of events where I was portrayed as a greedy, selfish father putting money before my son's happiness. Others had received carefully edited details that made me sound like I was having some kind of mental breakdown. The family group chat became a battlefield. Aunt Patricia wrote, "Justin, honey, just give Brenda what she wants. Gary deserves this celebration." Uncle Robert chimed in, "Family comes first, nephew. Your father would roll over in his grave if he knew you were splitting us apart over money." Even my cousin Sarah, who barely spoke to any of us most years, suddenly appeared with opinions, "Some things are more important than profit margins." I tried explaining the financial reality one more time. I posted a detailed breakdown of what Brenda was actually asking: the lost revenue, the absorbed costs, the fact that she was collecting payment while I donated everything for free. The response was swift and uniform. I was making excuses, being cheap, and prioritizing money over family. Gary came home from school Wednesday afternoon looking exhausted. He dropped his backpack by the door and slumped onto our couch. "Dad, everyone at school is talking about our family drama. Someone's mom heard about the restaurant scene from her friend who was eating lunch there yesterday." "What are they saying?" "That our family is fighting over money and I'm caught in the middle. That you and Aunt Brenda had a screaming match in front of customers." He rubbed his eyes. "Coach asked me if everything was okay at home." "I'm sorry you're dealing with this." "Dad, I keep telling you I don't need some expensive dinner. I just wanted them at my game." "I know, son. Maybe you should just say yes so this whole thing stops." That was the moment I realized how toxic this situation had become. Gary was ready to sacrifice his own principles just to make the family drama end. Brenda had successfully created so much chaos that my own son was advising me to give in to her demands. Thursday brought a new wave of harassment. 3 different family members called the bistro during lunch rush, tying up our phone lines while lecturing my staff about my selfish behavior. Dorothy fielded calls from Aunt Margaret, Uncle Steve, and Cousin Jennifer, all demanding to speak with me about coming to my senses. "They're saying you're going through some kind of crisis," Dorothy told me after the 3rd call. "That maybe the stress of running the restaurant alone is affecting your judgment." "What did you tell them?" "That you seemed perfectly fine to me and they should probably call your personal phone instead of disrupting business." Friday afternoon brought the social media campaign. Brenda posted on Facebook about family members who refused to celebrate their children's achievements and tagged half our extended family. She did not mention my name directly, but the comments made it clear everyone knew exactly who she was discussing. Carmen shared the post with the caption, "Some people forget that family means putting others before yourself." Frank added his own post about disappointing brothers who let pride get in the way of love. By evening, I had lost 12 followers and received several private messages from acquaintances asking if everything was okay with my family. The bistro's business Facebook page started getting strange comments from people asking about our family dispute and whether it affected food quality. But Saturday brought the escalation that truly shocked me. I was reviewing weekend reservations when Dorothy knocked on my office door. "Justin, there's a health inspector here," says someone filed a complaint. The inspector was a stern-faced woman in her 50s who introduced herself as Linda Morrison from the county health department. She carried a clipboard and camera, and her expression suggested this was not a routine visit. "We received a complaint about unsafe working conditions and potential health code violations," she explained. I need to conduct a full inspection immediately. What kind of complaint? Anonymous tip about family conflicts affecting workplace safety and food handling procedures. The caller mentioned emotional abuse of employees and potential contamination risks. I felt sick. Brenda had weaponized the health department against my business. The inspection took 3 hours during our busiest afternoon. Linda examined every corner of the kitchen, interviewed staff members, and checked temperatures on all refrigerated items. She found 2 minor violations: a loose handle on one refrigerator door and inadequate labeling on some prep containers. Both were easily fixable, but the timing was disastrous. Regular customers witnessed health inspectors crawling through the dining room, taking photos and making notes. Several families left without ordering. A business dinner I had been cultivating for months got postponed when the prospective clients decided the health situation made them uncomfortable. Miguel pulled me aside after the inspectors left. "Boss, what's really going on? That lady asked me if anyone in your family had been threatening employees or creating hostile working conditions. My sister is trying to pressure me into doing something I can't afford by sicking health inspectors on us." Apparently. Monday brought even worse news. 2 of my key food suppliers called within an hour of each other, both requesting immediate payment instead of our usual 30-day terms. Anderson Produce said they had heard concerns about the restaurant's financial stability and needed to protect themselves. Cisco's representative was more direct. Someone had called claiming I was having cash flow problems and might not be able to pay my bills. "Who told you that?" I asked. "Can't reveal our source, but they seem to have inside knowledge of your family situation. Said there might be legal battles over the restaurant ownership that could affect your ability to operate." I spent Tuesday morning calling my other vendors, explaining that my business was financially sound and that someone was spreading false information. Most were understanding, but the damage was already done. My reputation in the supplier community had been questioned, and that kind of doubt could take months to rebuild. Wednesday brought the cruelest blow yet. Gary came home from school with news that made my heart break. "Dad, kids are saying I should just tell everyone the dinner was my idea to cancel. That way you won't look bad and the family will stop fighting." "Gary, you did nothing wrong." "I know, but maybe if I just tell people I didn't want a big celebration, everything will go back to normal." I looked at my son, 17 years old, state champion, honor student, the best kid I could have asked for, and realized he was trying to sacrifice his own dignity to protect me from his family's attacks. "You will not apologize for other people's bad behavior," I told him firmly. "You earned that championship. You deserve to have your family there cheering for you. And you deserve better than relatives who show up 3 weeks later demanding you celebrate on their terms." "But Dad, what if they're right? What if I would be better off with a nice dinner now instead of staying mad about them missing the game?" "Gary, listen to me very carefully. There will always be people who try to rewrite history to make themselves look better. There will always be relatives who show up late to the party and demand credit for caring. But you cannot let them convince you that their convenience matters more than their consistent support." That evening I sat in my office calculating numbers I had run dozens of times before. The restaurant was profitable but not wealthy. My personal savings totaled $8,300. Gary's college fund held $12,400. Monthly expenses, business and personal combined, ran approximately $18,000. If I gave Brenda what she wanted, I would exhaust my emergency fund rate, Gary's education money, and still end up short. I would also be rewarding the exact behavior I was trying to teach Gary was unacceptable. But if I continued to refuse, how much more damage would she do to my business and reputation? I was still pondering that question when my phone rang. The caller ID showed my ex-wife Amanda's number the first time she had contacted me in 6 months. "Justin, I heard there's some kind of family crisis happening. Is Gary okay?" "Gary's fine. My family is not. Someone called me asking about your mental health and whether you were fit to have custody. They said you were making irrational financial decisions that could hurt Gary's future." "Who called you?" "They didn't give their name, but it was a woman. She seemed very concerned about Gary's well-being and your ability to provide for him." I closed my eyes. Brenda had escalated from attacking my business to attacking my relationship with my son. "Amanda, I'm fine. Gary's fine. My sister is trying to pressure me into something I can't afford, and she's using increasingly desperate tactics." Well, for what it's worth, I told them Gary has never been happier or more well cared for. "But Justin, if there's really some kind of financial crisis, I can help with his college costs." "There's no financial crisis. There's just a sister who thinks I should bankrupt myself to prove my love." After Amanda hung up, I realized Brenda had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. Attacking my business was one thing, questioning my fitness as a parent was another entirely. I opened my laptop and began researching what legal options I had for dealing with harassment and defamation. If Brenda wanted to escalate this into a legal battle, maybe it was time to give her one. But first, I needed to understand exactly how deep her campaign against me had gone. Thursday morning brought the kind of news that makes business owners wake up in cold sweats. My landlord, Mr. Kowalski, called at 6:15 while I was still drinking my first cup of coffee. "Justin, we need to talk. Someone contacted me yesterday with concerns about your lease renewal." My lease renewal was not due for 8 months. "What kind of concerns?" "Family member of yours called, said you might be having financial difficulties. Said there could be mental health issues affecting your ability to run the business properly." His voice carried the careful tone of someone trying not to get involved in family drama while protecting his own interests. "Look, I like you and the restaurant has been good for this building, but I cannot have unstable tenants." "Mr. Kowalski, my business is completely stable. Someone is spreading false information because of a personal dispute." "Maybe so, but I got 3 calls yesterday. Different people all saying similar things. That's not something I can ignore." After he hung up, I sat in my apartment above the bistro, staring out at the main street of our small Ohio town. In 12 hours, Brenda had contacted my landlord, my suppliers, my ex-wife, and God knew who else, painting me as mentally unstable and financially irresponsible. The health inspection aftermath was still rippling through my business. Tuesday's dinner service had been down 30% from the previous week. Wednesday brought cancellations from 2 large parties who had heard rumors about problems at the restaurant. The food critic from the local newspaper had chosen that exact moment to make her annual unannounced visit, walking into chaos as I dealt with vendor payment issues and staff anxiety. I showered, dressed, and headed downstairs to open the restaurant, trying to project confidence I did not feel. Dorothy was already there setting up the coffee station with her usual efficiency. "How bad is it?" I asked. "Honestly, people are talking. Mrs. Henderson asked me yesterday if the restaurant was going to close. The Palmer family wants to know if their anniversary dinner reservation next month is safe." Miguel emerged from the kitchen carrying a list of supplies we needed. "Boss, I hate to add to your problems, but Ashley's been getting weird phone calls at home." Ashley was our youngest server, a high school senior who worked evenings and weekends. She appeared from the storage room looking uncomfortable. "Mr. Justin, some lady called my house Tuesday night. She told my mom that working here might not be safe because you're having family problems that are affecting the business." "What exactly did she say?" "That you might become violent or unstable, and that young employees could be at risk. She said my mom should consider having me find another job." I felt something snap inside my chest. Threatening my business was one thing, attacking my reputation was another, but deliberately trying to cost my teenage employee her job crossed every possible line. "Ashley, I am so sorry that happened." "It's okay, Mr. Justin. My mom knows you're not dangerous, but she is worried about the drama affecting me." That afternoon, I received a call that pushed my stress to dangerous levels. Gary's guidance counselor, Mrs. Patterson, requested a meeting to discuss his home situation. "Gary seems distracted lately, and we've heard there might be family difficulties affecting his emotional well-being. We want to make sure he has the support he needs during his senior year." I found myself in the surreal position of defending my parenting to a school counselor because my sister had launched a systematic campaign to destroy my reputation. The meeting went well. Mrs. Patterson quickly realized Gary was fine and that someone had been feeding her misleading information. But the fact that it happened at all showed how far Brenda's poison was spreading through our small community. That evening, Gary and I sat at our kitchen table sharing a dinner of leftover soup from the restaurant. He had been unusually quiet all day, responding to my questions with single words and avoiding eye contact. "Dad, maybe we should just move." "Move where?" "Anywhere. Start over somewhere people don't know about all this family stuff." "Gary, we're not running away from this." "But what if it never stops? What if Aunt Brenda keeps doing things to hurt the restaurant until we lose everything?" I looked at my son, the state champion quarterback, who should be excited about college applications and senior year activities, and saw a kid who was exhausted by adult dysfunction he had no power to control. "Son, sometimes people try to force you into doing what they want by making your life miserable until you give up. But if you give in to that kind of pressure, you teach them that bullying works." But what if standing up to them costs us everything? I did not have a good answer for that question because I was asking myself the same thing every hour. Friday brought the final blow that nearly broke my resolve. The newspaper critic's review was published, and it was devastating. "The corner table bistro distracted service overshadows decent food." The review described the restaurant as having obvious management issues and noted that staff seemed preoccupied with family drama instead of focusing on customer service. She mentioned witnessing heated phone conversations during lunch service and observed that the atmosphere felt tense and unprofessional. 2 stars out of 5, the worst review in the restaurant's 12-year history. I read it 3 times, then called Gary into the kitchen. "I want you to read this and tell me honestly what you think I should do." Gary read the entire review carefully, then set the newspaper down and looked at me with an expression I had never seen before, part sadness, part determination, part protective anger. "Dad, this is what happens when you let bullies think they're winning." "What do you mean?" "Aunt Brenda isn't trying to plan me a nice dinner. She's trying to prove she can control you, and if you give her what she wants now, she'll know she can do this again anytime she wants something." "But what if fighting back costs us the restaurant?" Gary was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that made me realize my son had grown into a man without me noticing. "Dad, would you rather lose the restaurant because you stood up for what was right, or keep it by teaching me that family bullies get rewarded for making our lives miserable?" That night I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, calculating worst-case scenarios. If I lost the restaurant, what would I do? If we had to move, where would we go? If Gary's college fund got depleted, fighting legal battles, how would I pay for his education? But then I thought about the empty seats at his championship game and Brenda's dismissal of his achievement as some high school game that won't matter in 5 years, and her systematic campaign to destroy my reputation when I refused to bankrupt myself for her entertainment. I thought about Gary asking if we should move rather than continue fighting, and realized that everything I was trying to teach him about standing up to bullies would be meaningless if I caved under pressure. At 2 in the morning, my phone buzzed with another family group message. This time it was my mother. "Justin, honey, the whole family is worried about you. Brenda says you're not thinking clearly and that this situation is affecting Gary's senior year. We think you should consider getting professional help to work through these issues. The dinner celebration could be exactly what you both need to heal from this conflict." I stared at the message, realizing that Brenda had managed to convince even my own mother that I was mentally unstable. The narrative had shifted from "Justin won't pay for an expensive dinner" to "Justin is having a breakdown and needs intervention." Part of me wanted to type out a long, detailed explanation of what was really happening, but I knew that anyone who could miss Gary's championship game and then spend 3 weeks systematically attacking my business was not operating in good faith. Instead, I turned off my phone and tried to get some sleep. Tomorrow, I would have to decide whether to keep fighting or surrender to demands that would teach my son the worst possible lesson about how the world works. At that moment, I honestly was not sure which choice I would make. Friday afternoon. Dorothy approached me with an expression I had never seen on her face, part anger, part determination, and completely unlike her usual cheerful demeanor. "Justin, I need to show you something. But first I want you to know that Miguel and I have been documenting everything that's been happening." "Documenting what?" She pulled out her phone and opened the voice recorder app. "Every threatening phone call your family made to this restaurant. Every time someone tried to intimidate our staff. Every conversation where they claimed you were mentally unstable. She played back a recording of Tuesday's call from Aunt Margaret. This is Justin's aunt, and I need you to understand that he is not thinking clearly right now. His family is very concerned about his mental state, and we think his employees should know that he might become unpredictable. Dorothy, you recorded this. I recorded everything. 23 calls over 6 days, all saying basically the same thing, that you're having a breakdown, that working here might be dangerous, that we should quit for our own safety. Her voice grew fierce. Miguel and I have worked here for 8 years. We know exactly who you are, and we know this is garbage. Miguel appeared from the kitchen carrying a small notebook. Boss, I also saw something during that confrontation with your sister. When she was screaming at you, she tried to plant something in our prep station. What do you mean? I was watching from the kitchen doorway. While everyone was focused on the argument, she reached under the prep counter and tried to stick something back there. When she left, I checked, it was expired ground beef from God knows where. If the health inspector had found that, we could have been shut down. I stared at him. Are you saying she tried to sabotage the restaurant? I'm saying she brought contaminated food and tried to hide it where inspectors would find it. Dorothy saw it too. Dorothy nodded grimly. I was so shocked by what I was seeing that I couldn't speak up during the argument, but Miguel and I retrieved the meat package after she left. We put it in the freezer as evidence. Ashley appeared from the dining room looking nervous but determined. Mr. Justin, my dad is an attorney. He handles business law mostly, but he's been listening to me talk about all this crazy stuff happening here. He wants to meet with you. Your dad wants to help. He says what your sister is doing sounds like harassment, defamation, and possibly extortion. He thinks you might have legal options you don't know about. That afternoon, I met with Robert Chen, Ashley's father and senior partner at Chen & Associates. His office was located 3 blocks from the bistro in a converted Victorian house that radiated competence and success. Ashley has been telling me about the situation with your family, he began. Based on what she's described, you may have grounds for several different legal actions. I can't afford a big legal battle. Let's start with a cease and desist letter. That costs $300 and might stop the harassment immediately. If your sister continues after receiving formal legal notice, we can discuss stronger measures. What about her threat to challenge my inheritance? Robert smiled grimly. Estate challenges are expensive and difficult to win. If your father's will was properly executed and there's no evidence of fraud or coercion, her chances of success are minimal. More importantly, threatening legal action to force someone into a business arrangement could constitute extortion. That evening, Gary's football coach Tom Bradley stopped by the restaurant just as we were closing. Coach Bradley was a local legend, 30 years of coaching, 6 state championships, and the kind of man parents trusted completely with their children. Justin, I heard through the grapevine that there's some family drama affecting Gary. I wanted you to know that I've been watching that boy for 4 years, and I've never seen a more dedicated athlete or better young man. Thank you, Coach. That means a lot. More than that, I have news that might change your perspective on this whole situation. He paused dramatically. A scout from Ohio State contacted me yesterday. They've been watching film of Gary's championship performance, and they want to offer him a full scholarship. I felt the world tilt sideways. A full scholarship. Full ride, Justin. Tuition, room, board, books, everything. 4 years renewable based on academic and athletic performance. The package is worth approximately $240,000. Gary had been restocking napkin dispensers during this conversation, but he stopped moving when he heard the number. Coach, are you serious? Dead serious, son. They want to bring you and your family down to Columbus for an official visit next weekend. There'll be a meet-and-greet dinner with coaches, a campus tour meetings with academic advisors, the full recruitment experience. I looked at my son, whose face showed a mixture of shock and pure joy. 4 years of worrying about college costs had just evaporated in a single conversation. There's more, Coach Bradley continued. The scout specifically mentioned being impressed by the community support visible in the championship game video. Apparently, someone posted highlights on social media, and the comments section was full of people praising Gary's character and leadership. Community support. Parents, teachers, local business owners, all talking about what a great kid Gary is and how proud the town is of him. The scout said that kind of genuine community respect is exactly what they look for in potential team leaders. That weekend word of Gary's scholarship offer spread through our small town like wildfire. Sunday morning, the bistro was busier than I had seen it in months. Families who had heard the news stopped by to congratulate Gary and wish him luck. The Martinez family, whose son played defense on Gary's team, brought a huge congratulations cake. The Hendersons, who had driven 4 hours for the championship game, treated us to breakfast and insisted on picking up the tab for 3 other tables. Mrs. Patterson, Gary's guidance counselor, arrived with her husband to personally congratulate Gary and apologize for the earlier misunderstanding. "Someone fed me completely wrong information about your family situation," she told me. "It's clear that Gary has exceptional support at home." By noon, we had a waiting list for tables, something that had never happened on a Sunday morning. People wanted to be part of celebrating our local hero's success. Dorothy pulled me aside during the lunch rush. "Justin, look around. These people aren't here because of some expensive dinner your sister wanted to plan. They're here because they genuinely care about Gary and want to support your family." Miguel grinned as he sent out plate after plate of our Sunday specials. "Boss, I think we just figured out what a real celebration looks like." Ashley was practically bouncing with excitement as she served tables full of Gary's supporters. "Mr. Justin, my dad wants to know if you'd like him to draft that cease and desist letter now. He thinks the timing is perfect." As I watched our community rally around Gary's achievement, I realized something important. The people who mattered, the ones who showed up consistently, who supported us through challenges, who celebrated our successes without demanding anything in return, they were already here. I didn't need to bankrupt myself to prove my love for my son. I didn't need to reward family members who had shown their true priorities. And I definitely didn't need to teach Gary that bullies get what they want if they just apply enough pressure. The scholarship offer had changed everything, not because of the money, although that was incredible, but because it proved that Gary's hard work and character had been noticed by people who mattered, people who judged him based on merit, not family politics. Monday morning, I called Robert Chen and asked him to draft the cease and desist letter. It was time to stop playing defense and start protecting what really mattered. The cease and desist letter arrived at Brenda's house via certified mail on Tuesday morning. By noon, my phone was ringing. "You cannot be serious," she said without preamble. "I'm very serious. The harassment stops now." "Harassment. I'm trying to celebrate your son. You missed his championship game to attend a yacht party, then spent 2 weeks trying to destroy my business because I won't bankrupt myself for your entertainment. That's not celebration, that's extortion. You'll regret this, Justin. The only thing I regret is not standing up to you sooner." That afternoon, I began planning a real celebration for Gary, one that honored his achievements while staying true to our values. Instead of Brenda's exclusive overpriced dinner party, I decided to host a scholarship announcement celebration at the bistro. The guest list would include people who actually cared about Gary, his teammates and their families, coaches, teachers, and community supporters who had shown up consistently. I called Coach Bradley first. "Tom, would you be willing to help me plan a team celebration dinner? I want to honor Gary's scholarship and recognize the other players who made this championship possible." "Justin, that's exactly what these boys deserve. Let me contact the other families." Next, I reached out to parents of Gary's closest teammates. The response was overwhelming. The Martinez family offered to help with decorations. The Henderson family wanted to contribute appetizers. The school principal asked if she could attend to recognize the team's academic achievements alongside their athletic success. Within 48 hours, we had planned an event that would truly celebrate what mattered: community, teamwork, achievement, and the kind of support that shows up when it counts. Friday evening arrived with perfect autumn weather. The bistro had been transformed into a celebration space that honored both Gary's individual achievement and his team's collective success. Dorothy and Miguel had outdone themselves, creating a menu that showcased the restaurant's best dishes while staying within a reasonable budget. The dining room filled with familiar faces, people who had been cheering for Gary long before he became a state champion. Coach Bradley gave a speech about leadership and perseverance. The school principal presented Gary with a special recognition award. His teammates shared stories about his encouragement during difficult practices and his composure during pressure moments. But the most meaningful part of the evening came when Gary stood up to address the crowd. My son, now 18 years old and headed to Ohio State on a full scholarship, looked around the room at people who had supported him consistently and spoke from his heart. "I want to thank everyone here for showing up tonight just like you've shown up all season long. Some people think celebration is about expensive parties and fancy decorations, but I learned something important this year. Real celebration is about being surrounded by people who care about you enough to show up when it matters." He looked directly at me. "Dad, thank you for teaching me that doing the right thing is more important than doing the easy thing. Thank you for showing me that family isn't just about blood relations. It's about people who support you through challenges, not just when it's convenient." The room erupted in applause. I felt tears in my eyes, not because of sadness, but because I was watching my son demonstrate the exact values I had hoped to instill in him. Later that evening, as we were cleaning up, Dorothy approached me with a satisfied smile. "Justin, this is what celebration should look like. Nobody had to go broke, nobody got excluded for not paying enough money, and Gary got to be surrounded by people who genuinely love him." Miguel added, "Boss, we got more compliments tonight than we've received in months. People keep saying this felt authentic and meaningful." Ashley grinned as she stacked empty dessert plates. "My dad says the cease and desist letter must have worked. No weird phone calls, no harassment, no more drama." The following week brought a series of conversations that helped me understand the full scope of what had happened and why. Tuesday morning, my cousin Derek called the first time we had spoken since his yacht party. "Justin, I owe you an apology. I had no idea Brenda was using my promotion celebration to hurt Gary. If I had known she was planning to miss his championship game for my party, I would have rescheduled immediately." "Derek, you didn't know." "I should have known. And I should have called Gary to congratulate him the moment I heard about his win. I'm sorry I let family politics get in the way of doing the right thing." Wednesday brought an even more surprising conversation. My mother called sounding genuinely confused and regretful. "Justin, honey, I think I misunderstood what was happening with this dinner situation. Your cousin Rebecca explained that Brenda was asking you to pay for everything while collecting money from guests. That's not what she told me originally." "What did she tell you?" "That you were refusing to let the family celebrate Gary at all. That you were being stubborn and selfish. I didn't realize she was demanding you close your business and absorb thousands of dollars in costs." "Mom, why didn't you ask me directly?" "I suppose I should have. Brenda can be very convincing when she wants to be." She paused. "I heard about Gary's scholarship. I'm so proud of him, and I'm proud of you for raising such a wonderful young man." Thursday brought the most satisfying news of all. Robert Chen called to update me on legal matters. "Your sister contacted my office yesterday asking about withdrawing her inheritance challenge. Apparently, her attorney explained that threatening legal action to force financial compliance could constitute extortion, and she's decided not to pursue that route. So it's over. The legal threats are over, and based on the documentation your staff provided, we have a strong case for harassment if she starts up again. I think you're in the clear." Friday afternoon, exactly 1 week after our scholarship celebration, I received an unexpected visitor. Frank, my brother, walked into the bistro looking uncomfortable and slightly embarrassed. "Justin, can we talk?" We sat in a corner booth, and Frank spent several minutes staring at his coffee before speaking. "I owe you an apology, a big one." "Frank." "No, let me say this. I didn't understand what Brenda was really asking you to do. I thought she was just planning an expensive family dinner and you were being cheap about it. What changed your mind?" Carmen and I actually sat down and calculated what it would cost if someone demanded we do the same thing at our business. The lost revenue alone would have put us in financial trouble, never mind the direct costs. He looked up with genuine regret. "I also found out that Brenda collected money from family members but never intended to pay you anything for food service or lost business. She was essentially asking you to donate everything while she profited from the event. Why didn't you ask me to explain this earlier? Because Brenda made it sound like you were just being selfish. She's always been good at making her version of events sound reasonable. He shook his head. I should have known better. You've never been anything but generous with family. Frank, I appreciate you coming here. There's more. Gary's scholarship dinner looked amazing. Carmen and I heard about it from the Hendersons, who said it was the most meaningful celebration they'd ever attended. That's the kind of event Gary deserved, something genuine and heartfelt, not some overpriced performance. Sunday morning brought the final piece of closure I needed. Gary and I were having breakfast at home when he looked up from his college preparation materials. Dad, I want you to know something. This whole situation taught me a lesson I'll never forget. What's that? That sometimes the people who claim to love you the most are the ones who support you the least. But the people who really care about you will show up consistently, not just when it's convenient or profitable for them. That's a hard lesson to learn at 18. Maybe. But I'm glad I learned it now instead of later. When I get to Ohio State and start meeting new people, I'll know the difference between real support and fake concern. He grinned. Plus, now I know that if someone threatens to destroy my business unless I give them what they want, the answer is simple. What's that? Nope. We both laughed, and I realized that despite all the drama and stress, this experience had strengthened our relationship and clarified our values in ways that would serve Gary well throughout his life. 6 months later, Gary was thriving at Ohio State both academically and athletically. The bistro had not only recovered from Brenda's harassment campaign, but was busier than ever thanks to the positive publicity from Gary's scholarship celebration and the community support that followed. Dorothy had been promoted to assistant manager. Miguel was developing new menu items that showcased his creativity. Ashley had graduated high school and started college with a recommendation letter from me that helped her secure both academic scholarships and a part-time job at a restaurant near her campus. Brenda and I never spoke again, but other family members gradually reached out to rebuild relationships based on mutual respect rather than financial manipulation. Derek became a regular customer at the bistro, often bringing business associates to experience what he called authentic community dining. Frank and Carmen visited monthly, and my parents made the drive for every special occasion. Most importantly, Gary learned that standing up to bullies, even family bullies, was not just acceptable, but necessary. He learned that real celebration comes from genuine support, not expensive performances. And he learned that sometimes saying nope to unreasonable demands is the most loving thing you can do for yourself and the people who depend on you. The empty seats at his championship game had hurt deeply in the moment, but they taught us both something invaluable about the difference between people who show up and people who just show off. The real celebration wasn't a $2,000 dinner planned by someone who missed his greatest moment. It was the community of people who had been cheering for him all along. Have you ever had to choose between keeping peace with family and standing up for what you knew was right? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and share it with someone who might need to hear about the importance of boundaries and authentic relationships. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories about real-life challenges and the courage it takes to handle them with integrity. Thank you for listening, and I hope you find the strength to say nope when someone tries to manipulate you into betraying your own values.